Okay, everybody. So this lesson will be a combination of basically an After Effects lesson mixed with a Cinema 4D lesson. We did this once before as kind of a hybrid lesson between After Effects and Cinema 4D, but also it will be continuation of the work we did in tracking. We talked about some of the tracking features. We had the tracking controls here. And so we had the tracker windows of track motion, stabilize motion, and warp stabilizer. But I want to talk today about this idea of tracking the camera. What does tracking the camera mean and how does it work? Well, I have this footage here called the tunnel. And inside here, I have the tunnel. And this is the tunnel footage. It's a little bit shaky, a little bit wiggly. Well, we can stabilize this footage in here. We could fix this footage up, make it a little bit less shaky. I was shooting this with my DSLR and it was a little bit shaky. So we're going to fix this a little bit. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to go right click and I'm going to go to track and stabilize and use warp stabilizer VFX. And that's going to take a second to stabilize this. It's going to use subspace warp. I can have pretty good results with subspace warp, but I could try perspective as well. But we'll try subspace warp first. It's right now initializing and doing this here. Now, there's a thing about using warp stabilizer and using track camera in the same project, in the same circumstance. And I do want to avoid that. What I mean by this is I'm going to warp stabilize this. It's starting to go already. Here it goes, warp stabilizing. And when it's done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into a pre-comp. I want to put everything to a pre-comp. There's a nature of warp stabilizer working with camera tracker, and it seems to butt heads a little bit, and so I like to avoid it a little bit. So now it stabilizes footage. We can look at subspace warp, but I do want to look at if this subspace warp method is warping this. Well, it will be initially, but it looks kind of, yeah, it's okay. It looks kind of like dream sequency here. It just looks kind of, there's some moments here that are just kind of issuey and edgy. It's much more stable, but this looks like the screen is like melting a little bit. I don't know. Let's try perspective. It's going to restabilize this and we'll look at perspective, see if this is less. Yeah, that's much less warpy. Is warpy a word? I don't know. It's much less whatever subspace warp does. Subspace warp is not always the best choice. But as I said, we're going to take all this and we're going to go to layer, pre-compose, Command-Shift-C, and pre-compose this. Now we want to move all the attributes into the new comp. We don't leave the attributes in the comp because that's going to leave warp stabilizer outside of the nested comp. And so we're going to say move attributes into new comp and say, boom, put it in here. And now it's inside the comp, so we can't see it. It's not here. It's not in the effects controls. We don't have access to it. It's not there. So great. Excellent. So we're going to go here and we're going to go to animation and we're going to go to, sorry, we're going to click on this first and go to animation and we're going to choose track camera, or we can right click and choose track and stabilize track camera. Now, let me talk about what tracking camera is going to do. If we watch this footage, this was footage of me in the basement tunnels, the service tunnels underneath the building that I work in. And I was walking through, I don't know if I was doing it legally, but I was walking through the basement service tunnels. I mean, I work here, I guess I can do it. And I was walking through the basement service tunnels and I was walking through my camera and I was shooting a footage and I kind of came around this way and I moved into here and I walked this way. Now, if you were to watch this, hypothetically, if you were to watch this and you were to see what was happening, you would see that I was walking through and walking this way. And if you watch this, say 100 times, if you watch this 100 times, you could probably recreate the exact footsteps that I made and the same camera movement that I made to work through here. This is doing this right now. It's 36% done. It's going through. It has another 24 seconds left. But imagine if you were walking through here, and as you walked through here, you could kind of see the movement I was making, and you could recreate the movement that I was making. Well, the idea being here is imagine if you went into, like, say, a separate room, for example, and you went in a separate room, and because you learned the choreography of exactly the footsteps I was making, say, for example, you went into like a green screen room, and you went into a separate room, and you watched what I did, and you recreated what I did with a new camera. This is what After Effects is doing. It's modeling what the camera is doing. And what it does is here is you can go here and you can say 3D camera tracker. You can go and create a camera. When you create a camera, it makes a camera called the 3D tracker camera. Now let me look at the 3D camera tracker for a second. If we go from top view here into the 3D view pop-up here, we go to top view here, you can see that it'll create this camera. And if you look at this camera, look, this camera is moving this way, and it's moving through over the 10 seconds here, and it's going to here and doing this. Well, what is this doing? It's imitating exactly what I did when I moved over. Now, if we go back here, we'll go into two views here. In active camera here, you can see I moved this way, and the camera's kind of doing the same exact thing. So the same kind of motion that I was making, the camera kind of replicated that. And so it imitated the camera. And so how did it do that? Well, it watched the scene, and it kind of saw edges. It saw points and corners and sharp, contrasty things, and it made points and said, hey, I can kind of figure out as these things move, as this corner moves, and as this corner moves, and as this little fire aid moved, and as these pipes moved, I can see how the scene sort of moved. And I can kind of, well, track it. I can track how this scene moved and imitate that move. So that's what it's basically doing. So let's see how that applies. We'll go back to one view here, and we'll click on this here. And in the 3D camera tracker, sorry, we're on top view now. We got to be an active camera here. And an active camera, if we click on this 3D camera tracker, it makes these little points. You can see these tiny little points right here all over the place. These little red and green and purple and blue points here. We can make them a little bit bigger. We'll make the track point size a little bit bigger so you can see them a little bit bigger, make them much bigger. There's these little points here. Well, the fun part is that if I click on these points, in certain places, you will see it'll triangulate these points, and it'll make little targets in random places. You can make the targets even bigger, but here's little targets. So every time it finds 3 points and it says, hey, I can look at this point, that point, and the other point, and I can figure out where the X, Y, and Z position of these points are, it'll track these points, and it will locate where these points are. So if I look, I can track around, and I can find a place. Like, I think this is a place on the floor. I think this is roughly here on the floor. This feels very much like it's on the floor. Well, if I right-click, use my right mouse button, I can create a solid. So I'm going to create a solid right here on the floor, and it's going to put a solid right there on the floor. And now I have a solid perfectly there, immediately, wonderfully on the floor, and it's there. Now, what happens is the 3D tracker camera will see this as a 3D object. So let me show this to you here. In here, if I look, probably in the distance somewhere, here is this green solid. We'll change this to green just so you know that it's the green solid here. This little green solid is right here. So as I look here, you can see that right here is this green solid. Now, what's going to happen is the camera, this virtual camera, is going to move this way. And this thing is in 3D space. And since this is in 3D space, this camera is going to look and see how this moves. How is it going to move? Exactly like the video moves. Now, you may ask, well, Chad, that doesn't make sense because how come the video doesn't move as well? Well, because the original video isn't 3D. If it was 3D, it would offset and move as well. We could do that. We could make this 3D and show it to offset and move. But let's just show what it looks like first here. We'll take the solid, we'll make it a little bit bigger. We'll go to solid, we'll make it a little bit larger and make a bigger solid so you can really see this. And now we have the solid on the ground. Now, as this moves, you will see that here it looks like it's kind of perfectly there on the floor. Let's go to one view here and let's really take a look at how this looks. This is moving like it's literally there on the floor, moving perfectly fine. There like so. So it's kind of buried there on the floor. We can do this again. We can say, let's take the solid, for example. Let's rotate this a little bit on the Z-axis here. We're going to rotate so it's flat. We're going to put this here against the wall. It's a little bit of trial and error to figure out. Whoops, we don't want to move it down. We just want to scale it this way to make it a little bit longer and a little bit wider here. We'll just make it go here and to here, and we'll put this kind of just there on the wall, and we'll see how this tracks on the wall. That's pretty okay. It's pretty good. A little wishy-washy in the beginning there. I think it moves awkwardly. I could go into this tunnel, and I could try to say, switch this inside here to this tunnel to warp stabilizer and try subspace warp again. It will restabilize it, which means we'd have to retract the tunnel outside of here. So let's do this again. Let's start over. Let's retract the tunnel here. I'm going to go in here. We're going to get rid of the 3D camera tracker, and we're going to go to right-click, track, and stabilize 3D camera tracker. We're going to do this again. So this can track, and you can try this a couple different ways. You can try this and see which version works better for you, whether subspace warp. Again, but we want to do that inside of the pre-comp. We don't want to do this outside of here. We want to do this inside the pre-comp, and we want to track. And we can track, and it will find these points. It'll make these points and work with this virtual display here. It's starting to track. Here it goes. 2% done. It's going to take another, 30 seconds maybe? I don't know, something. It'll tell you in a second. 42 seconds remaining. Man, we'll let it fly through here. Depends on the computer, though. Sometimes I've worked with computers would have a lesser graphics card, and the track isn't as well. And the track points, it won't find as many points. It's looking for these sharp edge contrast points. So here we're going to track. In order for this track to work, you need a little bit of movement. So you need a little bit of forward movement. You'll notice that it says 3D solved here. It's a fixed angle of view, so it's not using a zoom lens. And now we're going to track through here. So yeah, this didn't do as nice a track this time around. I feel like the track didn't end up doing the points as well. So this wasn't really what I wanted. I have a little flat ground here. We're going to grab this flat ground here, create a solid and a camera. We didn't create a camera at first. We could create a camera initially, but we didn't. So we're going to right click and create a solid and a camera. And now we have this solid right here in the distance, this orange solid here. We're going to scale this up a little bit more to show this orange solid right here. And we'll take a look at this in the screen and see how this tracks. Yeah, this might have been even worse. I don't even like this as nearly as much. It didn't seem to work the way I wanted to. Let's see if I can undo a whole bunch and go back to a whole previous setup here. Let's see. The tunnel is using subspace warp. We're going to go back in here. So this is not tracked at all. Well, actually, we'll track to perspective mode. It's going to restabilize. We'll go back to here. We have this again. So now we're back to what we had before. I think we're going to live with that. And that's going to be tracked pretty well. Now, we have a solid here. So the solid is, I guess, okay. I mean, it's not great. But we could say, let's grab something else. Like, let's grab in this picture of Cinderella here and say, cool, let's replace Cinderella, or this, with Cinderella here. So we're going to take this, track solid. We're going to hold in the Option key, the Alt key. We're going to drag Cinderella on top. It's going to put Cinderella right there. And we can scale up Cinderella a little bit smaller. It was a little bit different dimensions. And now Cinderella is on the ground there. So now we have just Cinderella, like someone put a poster of Cinderella, left a poster of Cinderella on the floor there. We could even go in here into blending modes, and we could hold down Shift and hit the equal sign and try to find a cool blending mode that kind of makes this look real. Probably not one of the multiply modes, but maybe just overlay or something, color dodge. Something so it looks like it fits there. Maybe soft light, hard light. I don't know. Something. Overlay, soft light, hard light. Yeah, that looks weird. Let's go back to soft light. Maybe overlay. So now it fits like it fits there a little bit better. Cool. We could color correct it, obviously, and do some color correction inside of here to make it look like it fits into the scene a little better. Maybe some effects, color correction, curves. We want to reduce, maybe it'll make it a little bit darker. Maybe make it a little bit more orangey. Bring up some of the low reds, maybe. Just so it's there. There, it looks like it fits in a little bit better. Let me pull the blacks down a little bit there, so it's just in the really low end there. It fits in a little bit better. Does that look better or worse? I don't know. Yeah, a little bit better. A little like more like it fits into the scene there. And we have that as an idea. And if we wanted to, we could say, forget Cinderella. Let's bring in something else. Let's go back here. Let's delete Cinderella. Let's go back here and find our 3D camera tracker. We're going to click on the tunnel on 3D camera tracker, and we're going to find our point here. We'll go right here. We'll create a solid. We'll create a solid there. So this is this purple solid. We'll scale this up a little bit and have this here. We'll maybe rotate it a little bit just so it's facing this way. And I'm actually going to take this and try to rotate this up so it's upright. So we're going to have this be upright. We're going to hold down the Shift key so it goes in increments of 5s. 40, 40, 90, 60, 70, 80, 90. So now we have this floating thing here in the distance, right, where this is. So this is just kind of a living thing right here. So this living thing right here, great, looks great. We're going to go here into import something. We'll bring in good old, maybe we'll go and bring in good old William Shatner here. That'll be fun. Bring the William Shatner here and say, cool, William Shatner. Again, we're going to option click and put William Shatner into this scene. There's good old William Shatner there. Open up like so. We'll have him just floating there. William Shatner. So now I have this little layer of William Shatner just kind of living there as an idea. Just a William Shatner coming to greet you. We could move him up a little bit. I guess vertically wouldn't be an issue. We could make him a little bit bigger. William Shatner floating. Little floating William Shatner. He has no legs there. Nothing below the thigh. But, you know, he could hug you. He could still hug you, even though he doesn't have thighs. He doesn't there. Now, I'm going to show you a couple more things we can do. So in here, we can go in here and say, okay, let's go to the tunnel. And now on the tunnel, we're going to go to the effects controls. 3D camera tracker, and I'm gonna look for a space in the wall here. And a space in the wall here, I have a wall space here. I'm gonna right click, and instead of creating a solid, I'll create a text. We'll create a text right here and say, hey, let's make some text right there. Now it says text. And we're gonna type in William Shatner loves you. And so now on the wall, it says William Shatner loves you. We'll go here, and now you notice that on the wall, we can move this down a little bit, maybe move this down this way a little bit, just so it's there on the wall. And so now it says William Shatner loves you. And now here, when you come around, there's like, oh, look, it says William Shatner loves you on the wall. That's embedded into the wall. This is a really big thing. A lot of people are doing this. If you ever watch like movie trailers, sometimes you watch movie trailers where like Denzel is like walking away from an explosion, looking super cool. And then like behind Denzel, we have the video embedded into the image kind of in the background. And so it's kind of embedded there, moving with the camera. As the camera moves, we have this whole scene kind of following along. And so this is the idea of what's called a 3D tracker camera. And so this is a cool thing that we can do if we wanted to. We may want to change the font to this, go here to the character controls, maybe like something like marker felt, like somebody wrote in marker on the wall. Marker felt wide. We have marker felt here. So now it says William Shatner loves you. We'll make it like a color, like maybe like a deep red. Deep red. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. That looks like someone just wrote on the wall, William Shatner loves you. You don't even see it at first. And then all of a sudden it's like, William Shatner loves you. Cool. And like, so that's like a thing you could do. You could make that look like there. We'll do this one more time. I'm going to do this with a different example. I'm going to find some good footage here. This is just an idea I had here. We're going to go to maybe Goat Yoga. We'll go to Adobe Media Files. If you ever watch the Premiere tutorials, maybe from with Goat Media, we'll find some cool B-roll here of like maybe, let's take a look. We'll go in here, icons. We'll find some good goat footage. We'll make like a goat Denzel scene. We got to have something that's moving. So the trick will be to have something moving. We'll take this shot, or maybe, let's see. We have a shot like, again, if it's not moving, it's going to be difficult, but we could have, yeah, maybe this. This would be tough, but we're going to try it anyway. We're going to try something here. We're going to bring in this. We're going to make a comp out of this. Cool. We're going to have this. So she's going to be walking and the camera's going to be moving with her. So it's going to be moving with her as she moves and it's moving around a little bit. We're just going to grab from here to here. So we're going to hit, let's see, option bracket. Boom. We're going to move that to there. And we're going to move this to the beginning. So we're going to bracket this off. And we're going to have this for a little bit as it moves with her for about 6 seconds, maybe 8 seconds. Cool. When we're going to say, option bracket again, and we're going to close it there. We're going to hit the N key, and then we're going to just make the beginning and end this long, and we're going to trim comp to work area, just the 8 seconds. Great. So 8 seconds, should we stabilize this? We're going to try not stabilizing this. We're going to go here. We're going to go to track and stabilize. Just do track camera. Should I probably stabilize this? Probably, but I want to get through this, and I want to show you some other cool things. So let's see. I've never done this before, so this isn't like a cheat that like some of these videos you see people do. They've already done this 16 times and they have it perfect and everything works out perfectly fine. But this is a brand new one. We're not going to try this. Having practiced this before, it's initializing right now. So right now, when it's initializing, it's finding these points. It's finding all the points. Now it's started. It takes sometimes, depending on the number of points, it has some trouble initializing. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make this like this woman here walking like a Denzel video. Now, the trick is I don't know if I'm pushed in. I don't know if I physically moved in. You need to dolly in a little bit to get a sense of depth. Otherwise, the track may fail. Every now and then you'll see a track fails, or it says I can't do a 3D solve based on there. It might give an error. So now it's solving. It says analysis solve failed. And it did fail because I don't have the right movement. I'm panning. I'm not pushing in. If you want the sense of having this work, you need to have the push in. Well, that was disappointing, but it was a nice thing to show you that it did fail and show you how it would fail. You need to physically move forward. If you're just panning over and you're sitting in the same spot and you're not moving any closer or further, this 3D solve is not going to work. We try to resolve it based on variable zoom, but it's probably not going to give us what we want. It's probably going to fail again. You need to have some kind of forward motion for this to even calculate and work forward. Hey, I have a feeling this is going to fail as well. We'll see. Yeah, I'm gonna skip away from this one. Again, we tried something randomly. Probably should have practiced it at first, but it was a nice idea. We're going to go back to the tunnel here. Should we wait? Should we wait? Keep waiting forever. Yeah, it's going to fail. Anyway, so we're going to go back to this tunnel here, and we have this here like so. I want to show you a couple more things in this and how this would work. And we're also going to show you how this could work with some 3D model stuff here. Obviously, I think the 3D model stuff would make sense automatically, but we'll show you how this would work in here. So here, I kind of want to look back. Still solving. Oh, wait, it did solve. It solved. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. So with the variable zoom here and the 3D solve, man, now see, I'm glad I came back to it. Cool. This is how we learn. We learn from problems here. You're seeing some points on our face here, which we don't want. But we want to control the background here. So I'm going to go to the background here, somewhere in background, somewhere there. We're going to see that in here, we're just going to create text in the camera, and we're going to have create text in the camera. And in this text, we'll take this text and say, you've, we'll put it in all caps, you've never seen a movie like this. Cool. And we'll take this, we'll change the font here, we'll change it to white, and we'll go here and we'll say, turn the caps lock off. We'll change it to impact, cool. Impact. We'll turn the caps lock off. Cool. And then we have you've never seen a movie like this. So it's going to be here. It's going to be like boom. And this moves through the scene like it's in the back, like it's buried in the background there, like so. And now what we could do is we could take Laura here. We could duplicate Laura, put Laura up top here. And now we could take Laura and we could kind of mask her out. We're going to go here and rotor brush her out. We're going to take here and say rotor brush. We're going to grab Laura. Let's see how rotor brush, the new version of rotor brush here is going to do for grabbing Laura. Bam. Okay, so we have a mask around here around Laura. This is good. We don't have all of her hair here, so let's grab in some more here and put this into here. Let's grab in some of that and throw in some of there and some of there, and then boom, we have it like there. And now we can sort of track this. We can rotor brush this to see how this is going to work. And we'll hit play here and see if it's down towards your knee. Oh man, it's cutting Laura out. It's doing a good job. I don't know. We'll try to make it work. We'll try to go in here. We probably don't need the 3D camera tracker anymore on this layer because this is just going to be the overlay layer. But just to show you how this works really quickly, just as an idea, just as a fun little thing we can do. We can make like kind of, imagine this is Denzel. We can make a cool movie trailer. Denzel in goat yoga. Cool. We're going to take this. We're going to go back into composition. And now look, oh man. You've never seen a movie like this before. You've never seen like you've seen this before. You've seen a movie like this before. Walk your hands down towards your. And we can put more stuff in here. So we can go in here and we could say 3D camera tracker inside of here. Let's get out of the rotor brush. Let's go back to the selection tool. In the rotor brush, we could grab another point here, maybe over here or something. I'm trying to look for a flat front facing control. So I want my target to look, my targets are kind of small. I want my targets to look very flat front facing like that maybe, or like, that's pretty good. We'll take that one. We'll create another text. This is new text. The new text will say, I don't know, something like, goat, goat of the year. Goat of the year. And now we have this. We'll make this obviously a little bit smaller. We'll make the font a little bit smaller. Go to the year, and now it's there. We're going to put this behind A17, and now we have this tracked in here. And now as she walks through, it's going to be like different graphics there. It wasn't really worth it because this one was in a weird place. We'll take this. We'll move this a little bit over here, just so it's behind her. Walk through it, and it's kind of moving with the camera, right? We have it moving with the camera. And you've seen stuff like this as an idea. I just want to show you can do that. That's kind of cool. I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool. We're going to move back to the tunnel here. And so we're going back to the tunnel here. And inside the tunnel, we have here. Now, I want to show you some other things you can do, other things you can bring in here. If you want to, for example, let's go into two views. And inside here into, let's move this a little bit smaller. Let's get my tracker window. We'll close my tracker panel. And I want to go into two views here. And in two views, I want to show you that what we can do is we're going to take a light and we're going to set a light up here. So I'm going to go in here, William Shatner here, and I'm going to say Command let's see, Command Alt Shift L. We're gonna make a light. We'll make a point light. We'll make a point light that casts shadows. We'll have this point light here, inside of here, point light that casts shadows, and we're gonna say make a point light cast shadows. We're gonna take this light, we're gonna push this light here on the Z-axis. On the Z-axis, we're gonna push this light all the way to here, all the way to where William Shatner is. Here's William Shatner. We're gonna raise this up so it's on William Shatner. Let's take a look in maybe instead of top view, we'll look in left view here just so I can see where this light is and where William Shatner is. So here's the light. Here's William Shatner. We're going to put it a little bit closer to William Shatner. Keep going to the Z-axis. We'll eventually go past William Shatner, which is not what we want. We want to be in front of William Shatner. We'll make this light a little bit brighter. AA for light options. Oh, the light is only up to 45 intensity. Yeah, we'll make it back to 100% intensity. There we go. We have the light there in William Shatner. And we can say, hey, we don't even want the light. We'll go to material options, AA, and say we don't want the light to even have any here intensity. Okay, so here we're going to go in here and we're going to say, let's look at material options and say in the light, we want, in William Shatner here, we're going to say William Shatner himself. We're going to go in here and say that this doesn't accept light. So he's not going to be affected by light. So he's going to be in his normal color, his normal amount of brightness, no real control there. But now what we can do is we can say on the ground here, we're going to go back to this bottom layer. Hold on a second. We're going to go to this bottom layer of this tunnel, and we're going to do the 3D camera tracker. And on the ground here, we'll go here into selection mode. We're going to go into one view here. And in one view here, we're going to go onto the ground, somewhere on the ground, right beneath William Shatner here. We're going to line this up here. And you can actually click your own points if you want to. So if you saw a floor point here and you held down shift and grabbed this floor point and say this floor point and that floor point, you could grab 4 points and you could define your own area here. We're going to have our own area defined here on the floor. We're going to say create a solid. Instead of create a solid, we're going to do create a shadow catcher. Now, what's a shadow catcher? Well, it's a thing that catches shadows. So we're going to create a shadow catcher, which is basically this thing here called a shadow catcher, which is an invisible piece of nothing. It's a little small, so we're going to make this a little bit bigger. We're going to go scale. We're going to scale this up much bigger over to here, and we are going to rotate this a little bit this way. And we want to make sure it's over where William Shatner is, and we want to make sure it's casting a shadow on William Shatner. There's my shadow showing up there. That's my shadow behind William Shatner. We're going to make this even bigger. We might even take this on this axis, on the y-axis, and move this down a little bit so it's there. And there's my William Shatner shadow on the ground. Now, depending on where the light is and how the light is positioned, we'll go back in here to 2 views here. Depending on how the light is and how the light's positioned, we'll put this light up here. We can get a shadow here over William Shatner here, which is William Shatner on the ground here. So now it has the shadow beneath William Shatner. So it's this floating shadow here. We'll take the shadow catcher. We'll take the light AA options, and we'll go to the cast shadows, maybe like 40%, 45%, have a little lesser shadow. And so now we have this moving shadow that we have caught underneath here. Man, look at that. It's going to play back really slowly because it's going to take some time to render, but inside of here, this is the shadow that's living underneath William Shatner. So it's catching William Shatner and playing a shadow on the ground there. Obviously, we probably want our shadow catcher to be a little bit wider, maybe. Go to our shadow catcher, have a shadow catcher go to the wall. So we just have all of William Shatner there. Again, you can define how big your William Shatner is and where your William Shatner is. So somewhere between where Shatner is, where the light is, and where the thing is, you know, you can have some level of shadow there. Shatner shadow. You can control how the shadow falls, and so you can have this really feel like it's really in the scene, and it's there, floating with that as an idea. So that's a cool thing we can do. So now we can have a shadow catch in there. We can have some lights in there. We can have some objects in there. Amazing. Cool. So moving on, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to go here. Let's get rid of the shadow catcher. Okay, so we're going to get rid of the shadow catcher. We're going to get rid of the point light. I want to show this to you as an idea. We're going to get William Shatner. I know. Goodbye, William Shatner loves you. Goodbye, William Shatner. And we're going to go back here to the 3D tracker camera, 3D tracker, and we're going to make a solid here on the ground. We'll just make a solid on the ground here. We'll even plot our points here. We'll click. click, click, and click. We'll grab our points here. That looks like a good floor. I know, maybe not even this point, maybe like this point here. A good floor. That feels pretty good, like the floor. We're going to create a solid, have a solid. We're going to take the solid, make it a little bit bigger, scale this up. Inside here, we're going to have this scaled up. We're going to rotate this a little bit so it's on the floor, right there in the center on the floor. Cool. We'll even scale this up wide so we can see how wide the whole floor is. Cool. Let's see if this works. I feel like it's a little tilted. I feel like I might want to tilt it this way a little bit. Cool. Let's see how this looks. Okay, so that's right there on the floor. That looks like the floor. If I scale this up this way and pull this open a little bit wider, I can get the whole floor. Let me tilt this down a little bit just so it's here. That feels pretty good. We can get this right. I should probably just trust the tracker and to do what it's doing. But let's see what it looks like on the floor. So does this look like it's on the floor? Yeah, it looks like it fits on the floor. So it's there on the floor. Excellent. What I could even do, just for amusement's sake, what I sometimes do is I do the grid effect. The grid effect, generate grid. That way I can see kind of how it is on the floor. I feel like this needs to be moved a little bit like there and rotated a little bit this way. Let's try this again. Let's do this again. I don't know if I like this solid here. Let's try this as another idea here. Let's track. Let's let the tracker do its job. Again, click on the tracker. We're going to go track to here, track the floor. Let's see how this track looks. I want to get it so it fits right on the floor. I probably shouldn't rotate it. I get kind of self-important and think that I should rotate it. Let's see. Track, solid, grid. Cool. So that's on the floor. That feels like it's there on the floor. It's pretty good, pretty in place on the floor. It's there. I shouldn't trust the shadow that's being made, but that's pretty much, that's even with the wall. It's holding there pretty well with the wall. So now I have a solid right there. Excellent. So I'm going to save this project. Right now, this project is not saved. So here it says untitled project. So we're going to save this project. We want to save this project. Let's Command S, save this project. And we're going to go here, Command S, save the project. And we're going to say, let's save the desktop. We're going to call this basement tunnel or something. Here, let's go here and say tunnel basement. Cool. So we have the tunnel basement thing going on here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go to this project and we're going to say, let's take this tunnel sequence and let's go to File, Export, Export, Maxon Cinema 4D Exporter. This guy right here. We're going to Maxon Cinema 4D Export. This is going to export the tunnel attributes out. It's going to export the solid and the track solid and the 3D camera. It's going to export both those things out of the system inside here. And this will create a copy of this outside on here. It's going to tell me that 2D layers will not be exported. After Effects plugin, Maxon Cinema 4D Export 2D layers will not be. This happens every single time. That's because this video is not a 3D thing. And so it's not going to export this because it says, hey, I don't export 3D stuff. Remember, you have to save the project first. We're going to call this tunnel reference. Throw this in desktop here. So we have tunnel reference here. We're going to go to tunnel reference. We're going to grab this off the desktop here. Desktop. We're going to go here to tunnel reference. We're going to double click and load this into Cinema 4D. So this makes a Cinema 4D file that we load into Cinema 4D. Oh, let's not open up Cinema 4D R25. I have the new version here. Right now, this is set to, since it was created, since After Effects is still using its Maxon Cinema 4D exporter as version 25. Let's cancel that. Let's right click and say open with Cinema 4D 2024. That's going to be the better version here. To open this in here with version 2024. Cool. So this is going to open up. We'll take a look at this loading up. Initializing plugins there. It's going to load this up and let's take a look. We're going to see this in here. It's going to load this and open this inside of here. Oh, it did not open it. Weird. All right. Be that way. Be difficult. All right. We're going to open it the old-fashioned way. Open project. Here, we're going to go in here and say, let's go to tunnel reference. Let's open that up. And there it is. Okay, cool. That was weird. Tunnel reference, tunnel basement. So then let's see what we have. We have the tunnel the tunnel. We have the tracker camera. The tracker camera is here. And if we hop out of this camera, we can look and see that out of this camera, in here, we can see, oh, look, the same camera is doing the same thing. So we haven't talked about cameras in Cinema 4D lessons yet, but we have the cameras. The camera has all of these frames. Look at all these frames have keyframes on the bottom. All these points Here's a ton of keyframes. So this is going to hold this camera here. We don't even lock down this camera. But as this plays through, look, the camera moves exactly in the same way. Well, now, because the camera moves in the exact same way, what can we do? Well, obviously, we can put some stuff in here, put some 3D stuff in here. So let's zoom out. We'll zoom over and look at the solid. And the solid is this pink solid right here. And this is emulating exactly what's happening in After Effects. So let's take an object. Let's just take something simple. We'll go really simple just at first. We'll go to a cube here. We'll make a cube. Okay, so it's going to make a cube right here. We can put the cube right here. We can make this a little bit bigger. T, make this a little bit bigger cube. E key, and we'll put this right there, and we'll put it onto the solid. Now, is it on the solid exactly? No, but what we're going to do here is we're going to go to Tools, Transfer. I really like Tools, Transfer. We're going to put it right there in the solid. I don't want to change the scaling, so we're not going to change the scaling. We're going to undo the scaling change. And now we're going to take the solid, E key, and just move this up, because it's in the middle of this. So we're going to move this up a little bit, just so it's on top, right on top of the solid there. We're going to look back to the camera, and now I'm going to save this. Command S, save this. It says it's saved in an older version, so we're going to say proceed to the newer version. Excellent. We're going to save this in the newer version inside of here. So now we have this tunnel reference in here with the solid here. And when we watch this, when we play this back, it's going to move just like the thing moves. Now, we don't need the track solid anymore. The track solid is unnecessary. Forget about the track solid. We're going to ignore it. We're going to turn this off. We're going to resave it without the track solid. Make sure you're not like this and you're not looking to the camera. Make sure you hit this little doohickey right here and you're looking through the camera. We're going to save. Now we're going to hop back into After Effects, and back in After Effects, we'll get rid of this track solid. We'll hide this one for a second. And now I'm going to import this tunnel reference. So we're going to go to Desktop, and I'm going to import tunnel reference right here. This is the game. So now we're going to bring in tunnel reference, and in here, tunnel reference, wait for it to load up, will load up right in the exact same place. Here it comes. It's rendering. Takes a second. It's very exciting. Here's the solid. And so the solid is right here. So as this thing moves and plays, this solid will be in the exact same place. Now we're looking through this in viewport draft mode. So we're not getting everything per se. We are viewing this in viewport draft mode, which means we're getting this kind of in poor quality. But we can go to the Cineware controls. We learned the Cineware controls previously in a previous lesson. Current. We're going to switch to current, and now we have this solid in here. So now we have this solid moving as though it were a 3D object in here. And now, obviously, all the changes we make inside of Cinema 4D here will change to something else. So if we take the cube, we add some filleting on here, add some roundy edges. We go to materials. We add something like, well, we just make a new material here. We'll just get a new material. We'll change a color here of the cube. We'll go in here to the cube materials. We'll say for the color, we're going to add a texture like a, maybe just a surface tiles. Yeah, cool. And so here in the surface tiles, we're going to say, excellent, command save. We got to save it. Hop back into here. And this should, wait for this to render. Boom, it's going to process an update. It will put this in here with the filleting edge, with a little bit of tiles there. It's in current right now, so it's taking a little bit of time. Again, the more work you're doing, I'm doing screen capturing while working in After Effects, while working in Cineware. It may take a second or two to update. Maybe a problem. I'm doing a lot of RAM intensive stuff right here, so it is taking a little bit of work to do this, to make this do what I want it to do. It is what it is. Might get rid of my material here for a second. Yeah, this is taking a long time. Ooh. Let's just undo my material. We're going to delete my material from here. Resave this. We'll leave the checkboard pattern here for now. We'll resave this. We'll go back in here, and this will update. Here it is updating. Here's the render updating. Hopefully it will update. We can go back to view draft, or current draft, or viewport draft, and see it here. Oh, now it kept the materials. It's this current mode. The current mode is going to take some render power out of this. Actually, it worked there. There it is working. Now I'm going to put the material back on. So I want to keep that material there. So we do have it with the material. It took a second or two, but it's there, rendered out. Remember, every time we do this in here, we have to save this, and it will update every single time. So now with the solid there, now it's going to take some time to save it again. because I resaved it. Anyway, this is a thing we can do. Now, in with that, let me just hop out of here for a second. We're going to hop out of here. You know what? We'll leave it. We'll leave it. We'll let it do its thing. We'll let it do its thing instead of After Effects. We'll let it do its thing. But we're going to go here and we're going to say, let's get rid of the materials for a second. Let's get rid of the materials. And we're going to say, let's take this solid inside of here. Inside of Cinema 4D, we're going to take this and we're going to throw in some lights in here. So we're going to throw in some lights. Maybe we'll take the track solid. I just want to show this to you. We'll take the track solid. We'll get rid of the material here. We'll turn the track solid back on so you can see it. We'll save this. It will update. Hopefully it'll update. It's going to take some time in After Effects. It's probably having a nightmare right now. Yeah, it's still working, still doing its thing, but we're going to see what it does. So we'll go back to Cinema 4D here. And I'm going to throw in a light in here. We're going to throw a light from here. We're going to throw a light in here. And this light is going to say fall there and fall inside of here. And we're going to have a light in the scene there. Let's look and not in the camera view. So let's see. The light is all the way over here. We're going to put the light over like here. Make another light. We're going to hold down Command and make another light. Another thing we haven't talked about in Cinema 4D is making lights, but I just want to show you the idea behind this and some of the relationships that we have there. We'll go back in here. We'll make both these lights. We'll take both these lights and we'll make them cast shadows. So a little soft map shadow there. So now when they render with some shadow there in terms of there. And we could have it there. We could even go and say, add in a material like a shadow catcher, create class material shadow catcher. I don't love the shadow catcher, but we can add a shadow catcher in there onto the solid. That's going to turn this black, so you won't really see the shadow. But here, when we save this inside of After Effects, as this renders, this will take a second. I know it's going a little bit slowly, but it's doing what it's doing. I'm doing a lot of stuff here. It's hard to do a tutorial with 3 different programs open. Whew, take some time. What that's going to do is going to throw some shadows in there and throw some shadows over. One of the things you can do, let's switch back to a different mode here. I'm going to switch back to a slower mode here. One of the things you can do is you can bring the cameras and the lights from Cinema 4D into After Effects. So here's this inside of here. There's the solid with the shadows. It's being re-rendered, and now it looks like there. We could lower the shadow catcher. We're going to go a little bit slower here. We'll save this for now. And we're going to go back into Cinema 4D. We're going to go to the shadow catcher material. Maybe lower the shadow strength to like 45%. I don't know why I like 45. 45 is just like my shadow strength. Resave this, Command S, resave this. You see my asterisk goes away. And now here, this will reprocess. It takes a little bit of time. I know. I keep doing stuff. I keep wasting our time. But now you have 3D models that can exist in one program that you can reference into another program and have this there based on this camera tracker that you've made inside of After Effects. So this is a trick. This is a technique. We're going to watch this go. I do feel like I want to go into viewport draft, or maybe just into viewport, not even draft, but just viewport to see this. Now, the shame of it is you won't see the shadows in there, but I do want to show you one more thing that you can do once this is done rendering. We could spend some time talking about our feelings while this happens in here. We have this there. Again, we have the solid, we have the tracker, we have all the things. And if you bring in more complicated models, you know, it gets more complicated. At some point, you may want to render out of Cinema 4D. So you may want to go in here and render out of Cinema 4D just to make this do what it does. Oh, here it goes. It's rendering. It's doing something now. It stopped that little spinning beach ball. Or spinning rainbow, whatever that is. So there it is with less shadow. It's softer shadow there. And as we play this, hopefully this will play through. In current, it's going to play through really slowly, but now we have this 3D solid there. But we could throw in 3D other stuff. We could throw in 3D random objects, bring in random things, and have this be in here. The last thing I want to show you is in here with the Cineware, you can do extract scene data, and you can extract scene data from Cinema 4D. Cinema 4D scene data extract. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to extract the scene data, and we're going to say extract, and what it's going to do is going to bring in both the 3D camera tracker again, which we don't need because we don't need the 3D camera tracker. So we're going to say forget said 3D camera tracker, and we're going to say, but it's going to bring in both these lights. Now, both these lights exist, and this would be to bring in, it brought in point light. It recreated point lights from the point lights we made in Cinema 4D. It brought those point lights back into After Effects, and then now we have those point lights in After Effects. Why would you do this? Well, say, for example, you wanted to do something like, I don't know, you wanted to say, have William Shatner in here and have William Shatner be 3D. Again, we'll go back to this track solid here. Do we have the track solid here? Let's turn this track solid back on again. Here's the track solid. We're going to put William Shatner here. We're going to option click William Shatner on top of here. Boom. We're just going to make a grid on William Shatner, which we don't want. And so now William Shatner's here, but you want William Shatner to be affected by the same lights that are affecting the tunnel. So Shatner is going to have the same things going on. So it's these lights. These lights have the shadows turned on. It's the same thing. So the same thing is happening to the solid will also happen to Shatner. Why? Because Shatner is in the same place. You understand. I think you understand the idea. The other idea being is that you want to reference the same kind of lights with your 2D stuff that you do with your 3D stuff inside of After Effects. And so you can copy those over. You can extract those out and have a copy. Let's see if that works. William Shatner there. So William Shatner is being affected by the same lights. Excellent. He's being hit by the same lights that are affecting them there. There. We do not have a shadow catcher for William Shatner, but if we did, we would have some controls there for some kind of a shadow catcher on William Shatner, but he's being affected nonetheless. He's a little bit too big, I think. I think he looks too close. He looks closer than he is. We want him to be kind of the same size as the solid. We can move him up a little bit. We could have Shatner material options not affected by light. So it's going to be brighter, and then we could say, let's take Shatner. Let's go here, make another solid effects, 3D camera tracker on the ground here again. We'll put it on the ground somewhere appropriate. Sometimes you move into this a little bit and see, all right, there, that's perfect. Create a shadow catcher. We'll create this little shadow catcher. We'll scale this shadow catcher up much bigger. And now you have William Shatner. And William Shatner is being affected by the same lights that are affecting William Shatner is being affected by the same lights that are affecting inside of here, except the lights are a little bit darker in this because these lights here that are inside of here are coming through with a little bit more intensity inside of here, and they have a little bit of shadow darkness. Again, what do we go for? 45%. Why 45%? I don't know. Maybe because I like the 45%. It just looks the right amount of light here, so there. And so now each of these lights are a little bit darker. We still have the shadow catcher on William Shatner. And we have the shadows on everything. That's what we can do with shadow catcher. And that's what we can do with camera tracker, the idea of tracking camera. There's a lot of stuff we can do. And I think it's important to talk about what we can do with also Cinema 4D and camera tracker inside of here. So I think that's extremely valuable as an idea. I'm going to get rid of Shatner. We'll get rid of the shadow catcher. We're going to go back to tunnel reference. I'm just going to show you as an idea. This would be kind of fun. We could go in here and say, let's go back to tunnel reference. Inside of here, we're going to go inside of here, and we're going to say, instead of the cube, we'll get rid of the cube. And we're going to go here, and we're going to make a text. We're going to say text, make a big old text. Now, this text is going to be in a weird place. It's going to be up here, but we're going to go to Tools, Transfer. Put it in there. We're not going to enable scale, but we will say, let's make this text a little bit bigger. So with the T key, make the text a little bit bigger text. Maybe we'll take the text and we'll center the text. I think center alignment would be a better way to go. Make the text a little bit bigger. And then we'll just rotate it. We'll hold down the rotation to rotate this 90 degrees. We'll hold down shift so that it rotates 90 degrees. We'll go to E key and we'll push this up a little bit. And then we'll take the text and we'll expand the depth a little bit deeper. So we have really deep text. Maybe we'll put some caps in the text. Little rounded edge of the text so we can really see the text. We'll go back into here. Bammo. Save. This is going to take some time again inside of there. It's rendering. Man, let it run. Beach ball. It's going to be worth it, I promise you. I don't know if it's going to be worth it, but it's going to be something we can do. We have that there. We have the floating text, and you can have that idea of the floating text. So just, that's the way it looks inside of here. It's going to play through like this with the shadow catcher, with the same lights. Hopefully there's some shadow. We can always test. We can turn the shadow catcher off and we can hit Command R and see what it looks like. Okay, so there's a little bit of shadow, but the text is in a weird place. So it is what it is. Let's undo. Okay, cool. We can move the lights up closer, higher, something like there. Again, let's go back in here into After Effects and see if After Effects is going to give us anything. Let's actually go here and say, let's hop out of this. Let's take the lights. We'll put the lights. Take these lights. We'll move these lights over and we'll put them up higher. I just want to look super close. We're going to text. We'll go here and say, look at the lights super close and where the lights are in relationship to what we have. Where the lights here, put them up top. We'll just have them just right in front, up high, right there. That way we have a good shadow. How do these look? Put this one here, put this one up high, just so we have a decent shadow that's going to be like this. So when we hit Command R, we see that we have a shadow that's underneath this. That looks pretty good. Fantastic. We're going to hit undo, put that shadow catcher back on. We'll go back into here. I know. Going to have to re-render it again. It's probably doing what we want here. It's going to do spinning beach ball again. We're going to let this sucker render. And when it's done, it should do the shadow catcher there. This is what we can do with 3D tracker, 3D camera tracker, 3D tracker camera, whatever you want to call it. We can make this here. I kind of want to let this render, but kind of just sitting and waiting for it. Oh, something. Starting to render. You see a little bit of blue there. Starting to render. Let's see how it processes. We'll go here, let it render. Got to render all this information. A lot of stuff going on. A lot of power. Really tough to try to screen cap this. You need a super powerful computer to screen cap while simultaneously doing After Effects and Cinema 4D all in one application. It's a bunch of work. And there it is right there. We have that working. That did its job. Look at that. It says text. It says there. We can play this through. It's already starting to render down here. Play this. Now we have this text. 3D text floating in the screen. I kind of want to add a texture to it, but God knows it's going to hate me later. There we go. We have a whole second. All right, so that is 3D tracker camera, 3D camera tracker. That is the last part of tracking we can control. We'll talk about this in terms of doing this in After Effects and Cinema 4D. That was kind of a cool thing. Anyway, that's all we have for that. I'll see you in a future lesson.